her constitution is broken past recovery. I'm going to go ahead and give this back to you.
All right, Jeff, you want to carry on?
If the father would become acquainted with physical law, he might better understand his obligation and his responsibilities. He would see that he has been guilty of almost murdering his children by suffering so many burdens to come upon the mother, compelling her to labor beyond her strength before their birth in order to obtain means to leave for them. They nurse these children through their suffering life and often lay them prematurely in the grave, little realizing their wrong course has brought the sure result. I'm on Doria's phone and it's blinking something here. There we go. How much better to have shielded the mother of his children from wearing labor and mental anxiety, and let the children inherit good constitutions and give them an opportunity to battle their way through life, not relying upon their father's property, but upon their own energetic strength. The experience thus obtained would be of more worth to them than houses and lands purchased at the expense of the health of the mother and children. It seems perfectly natural for some men to morose, selfish, exacting, and overbearing. They have never learned the lesson of self-control and will not restrain their unreasonable feelings. Let the consequences be what they may. Such men will be repaid by seeing their companions sickly and dispirited, and their children bearing the peculiarities of their own disagreeable traits of character. It is the duty of every married couple to studiously avoid marring the feelings of each other. They should control every look and expression of fretfulness and passion. They should study each other's happiness in small matters as well as large, manifesting a tender thoughtfulness in acknowledging kind acts and the little courtesies of each other. These small things should not be neglected, for they are just as important to the happiness of man and wife as food is necessary to sustain physical strength. The father should encourage the wife and mother to lean upon his large affections. Kind, cheerful, encouraging words from him, with whom she has entrusted her life's happiness, will be more beneficial to her than any medicine and the cheerful rays of light. Such sympathizing words will bring to the heart of the wife and mother, will reflect back their own cheering beams upon the heart of the father.
So that paragraph's very positive of relationships and how we can build each other up in the family. Yeah. Yes, Roger?
I'm just wondering, at the day when this was written, I'm under the impression that it was not common, but oftentimes a mother, after giving birth, you hear of a 25 to 35-year-old mother dying.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right.
And in today's world, it doesn't seem like that's the
right.
vulnerable state.
Right.
Is she saying here that men were asking too much of their wives in that period and causing their death?
That's what it sounds like. That the mother was overworking to manage the homestead while the father was trying to grow a larger.
Are we any different today, or is that still an issue?
It's probably still an issue, except the labor is not so intensive and wearing as it used to be. We have washing machines and stoves and ovens, and we can go to the store and buy bread and milk and butter. So I don't know that the labor is as intensive to be wearing, but it's probably still overworking.
I guess I'd never thought of it as overworking. I just figured, well, they were more susceptible to disease or frailties or illness or
And,
something.
and we're going to read a little later on that creates disease as well, is the food that they were eating and the lifestyle they were living and so forth. And if it would back off to be more simple, then it'd be a little more life-preserving. I'm sure it's a combination of all those factors that played into it. All right. Doria?
The husband will frequently see his wife, careworn and debilitated, growing prematurely old, in laboring to prepare food to suit the vitiated taste. He gratifies the appetite, and will eat and drink those things which cost much time and labor to prepare them for the table, and which have a tendency to make those who partake of these unhealthy things nervous and irritable. The wife and mother is seldom free from the headache, and the children are suffering the effects of eating of unwholesome food, and there is a great lack of patience and affection with parents and children. All are sufferers together, for health has been sacrificed to lustful appetite. The offspring, before its birth, has transmitted to it disease and an unhealthy appetite, and the irritability, nervousness, and despondency manifested by the mother will mark the character of her child.
This made me think of something else. The experiences of the last week have been a little more burdensome to prepare food and to take care of the household and to do dishes. And I mean, you'd have to find your water sometimes, and then you'd have to heat your water. You can't just turn on the spigot and have hot water pour out. And so, relative to the times they were living, a lot of those things made it more laborious to run a household, and the wife usually had to be the one that did that. Okay, excuse me, Doria, you keep going.
No problem. In past generations, if mothers had informed themselves in regard to the loss of their being, they would have understood that their constitutional strength, as well as the tone of their morals and their mental faculties, would in a great measure be represented in their offspring. Their ignorance upon this subject, where so much is involved, is criminal. Many women never should have become mothers. Their blood was filled with scrofula, transmitted to them from their parents. What is that? Well, I don't know if this is the moment. But
I looked it up and I forget what it was.
okay.
It's a flu-like issue. I mean, it's a sickness from within. I can't remember exactly. I looked it up because I wondered the same thing, but I don't know.
But some people were born with this?
Yes, right.
Oh, okay, all right. Okay, so their blood was filled with scrofula?
Leukemia, maybe.
Oh.
Seems like it's a blood disease, I think.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so scrofula, transmitted to them from their parents and increased by their gross manner of living. The intellect has been brought down and enslaved to serve the animal appetites, and children born of such parents have been poor sufferers and of but little use to society.
It's an infection of the lymph nodes in the neck.
Lymph nodes, okay, all right. I knew I read something. Okay, thank you.
Bacteria. It causes tuberculosis.
Tuberculosis, that's what I was leading on. Not leukemia, excuse me, all right. Thank you. All
It's
right.
like TB of the lymph nodes, right?
Okay, right, okay.
Tell me where you ended, Dory. No, that's okay. Just tell me where to start. Here. Okay. It has been one of the greatest causes of degeneracy in generations back up to the present time that wives and mothers who otherwise would have had a beneficial influence upon society in raising the standard of morals have been lost to society through multiplicity of home cares because of the fashionable, health-destroying manner of cooking, and also in consequence of too frequent childbearing. She has been compelled to needless suffering. Her constitution has failed, and her intellect has become weakened by so great a draught upon her vital resources. Her offspring suffer her debility, and society has thrown upon them a class poorly fitted through her inability to educate them to be of the least benefit.
Okay, that doesn't mean it's the woman's fault, even though the paragraph kept saying that over and over and over. It's because of the condition she has to live in and maintain that creates the difficulty. All right? So don't get the idea that it's not picking on the women.
Yeah, it says she has been compelled, so
Right.
that sounds like it's not her fault.
Exactly right. You know, she is the one that suffers, which creates the problem, but it's not her choice to be suffering, so to speak.
Right.
Right.
Okay. If these mothers had given birth to but few children, and if they had been careful to live upon such food as would preserve physical health and mental strength, so that the moral and intellectual might predominate over the animal, they could have so educated their children for usefulness as to have been bright ornaments to society. Go
Yeah.
on.
Yeah, that'd be fine.
If parents in past generations had with firmness of purpose kept the body servant to the mind, and had not allowed the intellectual to be enslaved by animal passions, there would be in this age a different order of beings upon the earth. And if the mother, before the birth of her offspring, had always possessed self-control, realizing she was giving the stamp of character to future generations, the present state of society would not be so depreciated in character as at the present time.
All right. So there are some things that we should be aware of, but some of the times we don't have choices anyway. All right. Roger, are we on this side? Or Harold?
It sounds like she's promoting Planned Parenthood
Exactly.
instead of see what happens.
Whatever happens. All right. That's right. Okay.
Yeah.
Pastor,
Every woman about to become a mother, whatever may be her surroundings, should encourage constantly a happy, cheerful, contented disposition, knowing that for all her efforts in this direction, she will be repaid tenfold in the tenfold in the physical as well as the moral character of her offspring. Nor is this all. She can by habit accustom herself to cheerful thinking and thus encourage a happy state of mind, and can cast a cheerful reflection of her own happiness of spirit upon her family, reflection of her own happiness, and those with her whom she is associated, and in a very great degree with her physical health be improved. A force will be imparted to the life springs. The blood will not move sluggishly, as would be the case if she were to yield to despondency and gloom. Her mental and moral health are invigorated by the buoyancy of her spirits. The power of the will can resist impressions of the mind and will prove a great soother of the nerves. Children who are robbed of that vitality which they should have inherited of their parents should have the utmost care. By close attention to the laws of their being, a much better condition of things can be established. The period in which the infant receives its nourishment from the mother is critical. Many mothers, while nursing their infants, have been permitted to overlabor and to heat their blood in cooking, and the nursing has been seriously affected, not only with fevered nourishment from the mother's breast, but its blood has been poisoned by the unhealthy diet of the mother, which has fervored her whole system, thereby affecting the food of the infants. The infant will be affected by the condition of the mother's mind. If she is unhappy, easily agitated, irritable, giving vent to outbursts of passion, The nourishment the infant receives from its mother will be inflamed, often producing colic, spasms, and in some instances causing convulsions and
Fits.
Okay.
Interesting. The mother's disposition affects the children, which is true. Yes, Roseanne?
What I was going to say before, and this really bore out,
Right.
is when we have emotions, it creates hormones in our bodies, and that can affect,
It's passed on.
yeah, the mind-body connection is pretty interesting.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's right. Very, very closely connected.
The character also of the child is more or less affected by the nature of the nourishment received from the mother. How important then that the mother, while nursing her infant, should preserve a happy state of mind, having the perfect control of her own spirit. By thus doing, the food of the child is not injured, and the calm, self-possessed course the mother pursues in the treatment of her child has very much to do in molding the mind of the infant. If it is nervous and easily agitated, the mother's careful, unhurried manner will have a soothing and correcting influence, and the health of the infant can be very much improved. Infants have been greatly abused by improper treatment. If it was fretful, it has generally been fed to keep it quiet, when in most cases the very reason of its fretfulness was because of its having received too much food, made injurious by the wrong habits of the mother. More food only made the matter worse, for its stomach was already overloaded. Children are generally brought up from the cradle to indulge the appetite and are taught that they live to eat. The mother does much toward the formation of the character of her children in their childhood. She can teach them to control the appetite, or she can teach them to indulge the appetite and become gluttons. The mother often arranges her plans to accomplish a certain amount during the day, and when the children trouble her, instead of taking time to soothe their little sorrows and divert them, something is given them to eat, to keep them still, which answers the purpose for a short time, but eventually makes things worse. The children's stomachs are pressed with food when they are not the least want of food. All that was required was a little of the mother's time and attention, but she regarded her time altogether too precious to devote to the amusement of her children. Perhaps the arrangement of her house in a tasteful manner for visitors to praise, and to have her food cooked in a fashionable style, are with her higher considerations than the happiness and health of her children.
It's so easy just to give them something to eat. You know, maybe that'll quiet them down. And it does for a while, but it's not the direction you need to go. Yes, Roger?
I just want to share a positive illustration. Carol and I were invited over to Fred and Amanda Boothby's house.
Mm-hmm.
And we were so impressed with 7 children, how she manages.
Mm-hmm.
The children are happy, they're content, they're obedient. She maneuvers them cautiously and carefully and thoughtfully. It is a positive example of what we're just talking about.
Right.
And there are not many husbands or wives that can come up to that standard with that many children in management techniques.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just so neat to see a positive
Yeah.
example.
Yeah, it was very good. I agree. All righty. Roundabout, keep reading, I guess. And back to you, Jeff. There's a mic in front of you if you want to get it. Yes.
Intemperance in eating and in labor debilitates the parents, often making them nervous and disqualifying them to rightly discharge their duty to their children. 3 times a day, parents and children gather around the table loaded with a variety of fashionable foods. The merit of each dish has to be tested. Perhaps the mother has toiled till she was heated and exhausted and was not in the condition to even the simplest, and was not in a condition to take even the simplest food till she had first had a period of rest. The food she wearied herself in preparing was wholly unfit for her at any time, but especially taxes the digestive organs when the blood is heated and the system is exhausted. Those who have thus persisted in violating the laws of their being have been compelled to pay the penalty at some period in their life. There are ample reasons why there are so many nervous women in the world. Complaining of the dyspepsia. Say it again.
Dyspepsia.
Dyspepsia. With its train of evils. The cause has been fouled by the effect. It is impossible for the intemperate persons to be patient. They must first reform bad habits, learn to live healthfully, and then it will not be difficult for them to be patient. Many do not seem to understand the relation the mind sustains to the body. If the symptom is deranged by improper food, the brain and nerves are affected, and slight things annoy. Those who are thus afflicted, little difficulties to them trouble mountains high. Persons thus situated are unfitted to properly train their children. Their life will be marked with extremes, sometimes very indulgent, at other times severe, censoring for trifles which deserve no notice. The mother frequently sends her children from her presence because she thinks she cannot endure the noise occasioned by their happy frolics. But with no mother's eye over them to approbate or disapprove at the right time, unhappy differences often arise. A word from the mother would set all aright again. They soon become weary and desire change, and go into the streets for amusement, and pure, innocent-minded children are driven into bad company, and evil communications breathed into their ears corrupt their good manners. The mothers often seem to be asleep to the interest of her children until she's painfully aroused by the exhibition of the vice. The seeds of evil were sown in their young minds, promising an abundant harvest, and it is a marvel to her that her children are so prone to do wrong. Parents should begin in season to instill into infants' minds good and correct principles. The mother should be with her children as much as possible and should sow precious seeds in their hearts.
So it's important to train the child early on, okay? And some of that happens to be the fault of the parent. I mean, it talks about mother, but dads fall into that same category. You know, if you come home tired, you don't want the kids hanging around making noises, whatever. I mean, so, you know, everybody's guilty in that regard. But it's interesting that it backs up to the food has played a big part in this. Again, being not so diligent in maintaining that which is healthy with regularity and types of foods and preparation of foods and so forth. It has a big influence on what's happening here. All right. Any other thoughts? Doria, you want to continue? The mother's time?
Okay. The mother's time belongs in a special manner to her children. They have a right to her time as no others can have. In many cases, mothers have neglected to discipline their children because it would require too much of their time, which time they think must be spent in the cooking department or in preparing their own clothing and that of their children according to fashion, to foster pride in their young hearts. In order to keep their restless children still, they have given them cake or candies almost any hour of the day, and their stomachs are crowded with hurtful things at irregular periods. Their pale faces testify to the fact that mothers are doing what they can to destroy the remaining life forces of their poor children. The digestive organs are constantly taxed, and are not allowed periods of rest. The liver becomes inactive, the blood impure, and the children are sickly and irritable because they are real sufferers by intemperance, and it is impossible for them to exercise patience. Parents wonder that children are so much more difficult to control than they used to be, when in most cases their own criminal management has made them so. The quality of food they bring upon their tables and encourage their children to eat is constantly exciting their animal passions and weakening the moral and intellectual faculties. Very many children are made miserable, dyspeptics, in their youth by the wrong course their parents have pursued toward them in childhood. Parents will be called to render an account to God for those dealing with their children.
So parents are carrying responsibility. All right. Yes.
I think the challenge in today's families is how many families in a 1 week period are all sitting at the same table, eating the same food at the same time.
Right.
There are very few families where that happens in any consistent basis. That was not the problem in that era, but it's our problem today.
Yeah, we've changed a little bit the dynamics, but we still have the issue of not being together and taking like we should. That's true. All right, Roseanne?
Parents wonder that children are so much more difficult. Wait, she read that. Many parents do not give their children lessons in self-control. They indulge their appetite and form the habits of their children in their childhood to eat and drink according to their desires. So will they be in their general habits in their youth. Their desires have not been restrained, and as they grow older, they will not only indulge in the common habits of intemperance, but they will go still further in indulgences. They will choose their own associates, although corrupt. They cannot endure restraint from their parents. They will give loose rein to their corrupt passions and have but little regard for purity or virtue. This is the reason why there is so little purity and moral worth among the youth of the present day, and is the great cause why men and women feel under so little obligation to render obedience to the law of God. Some parents have not control over themselves. They do not control their own morbid appetites or their passionate tempers. Therefore, they cannot educate their children in regard to the denial of their appetite and teach them self-control. Many mothers feel they have not time to instruct their children, and in order to get them out of the way and get rid of their noise and trouble, they send them to school. The schoolroom is a hard place for children who have inherited enfeebled constitutions. Schoolrooms generally have not been constructed in reference to health, but in regard to cheapness. The rooms have not been arranged so that they could be ventilated as they should have been without exposing the children to severe colds. And the seats have seldom been made so that children could sit with ease and keep their little growing frames in a proper posture to ensure healthy action of the lungs and heart. Young children can grow into almost any shape and can, by habits of proper exercise and positions of the body, obtain healthy forms. It is destructive to the health and life of young children for them to sit in the schoolroom upon hard, ill-formed benches from 3 to 5 hours a day, inhaling the impure air caused by many breaths. The weak lungs become affected. The brain, from which the nervous energy of the whole system is derived, becomes enfeebled by being called into active exercise before the strength of the mental organs is sufficiently matured to endure fatigue.
All right. Hopefully we've gained insights as to proper conditions, but frequently we find schoolrooms are all closed up. I mean, you don't dare open a window, and so you're just recirculating the air over and over and over. Yeah, there's a filter there, but I'm not sure it takes care of a whole lot of things, as opposed to being able to exchange with the air outside. I can remember going to school and air conditioning was not what was happening. You'd open the windows and let the air come through, and which made it difficult when the teacher threw an eraser at the students and it went out the window. That happened once in my past. But anyway, so that's some good advice that we need to recognize. All along here, what we read tonight is good advice to give, particularly to new parents, to new married people, to young people, and they're going to probably scoff at it, but anyway, maybe they'll look back at some point and say, we shoulda, coulda. Yes.
I remember, she talks about hard benches in back in her day. I can remember going to school in grade school, and the first day or two, there would be somebody come in and adjust each desk to each child, the desk height and the chair height and so forth. We're very blessed and advanced, according to what she experienced in her day.
We do that here too. If we have, the desks are variable, and so if we move from one room to the other, when the kids are smaller, they get moved about, and their chairs are different sizes too. Yes, Roseanne?
I was going to say that we've made strides in ergonomics,
Yes.
but what about the other thing, the ventilation? I'm not so sure.
Yeah, exactly. We've closed all the windows. Although our school's got lots of windows, so it gets light, but not so much the air, because we're so accustomed to a conditioned air, either heated or cooled, and not with that exchange of fresh air. And so, yeah, you're right. We miss out in that regard. I know here particularly, they're outside very frequently in the sunshine, in fresh air, and moving about in the mornings and in the afternoons both. I mean, they get time out to be outside. So hopefully that helps some in the breathing part of it. You want to read?
Are we at the bottom of
No,
436?
we're in the schoolroom, the foundation.
Okay. In the schoolroom, the foundation has been too surely laid for diseases of various kinds, but more especially the most delicate of all organs in the brain has often been permanently injured by too great exercise. Ooh.
Exercise of the brain, not of the body. By putting too much emphasis on study and not free time. Go
Okay.
ahead.
This has often caused inflammation, then dropsy of the head, and convulsions with the dreaded results. The lives of many have been thus sacrificed by ambitious mothers. Of those children who have apparently had sufficient force of constitution to survive this treatment, there are very many who carry the effects of it through life. The nervous energy of the brain becomes so weakened that after they come to maturity, it is impossible for them to endure much mental exercise. The force of some of the delicate organs of the brain seem to be expended. Not only has the physical and mental health of children been endangered by being sent to school at too early a period, but they have been the losers in a moral point of view. They have had opportunities to become acquainted with the children who were uncultivated in their manners. They were thrown into the society of the coarse and rough, who lie, swear, steal, and deceive, and who are delight to impart their knowledge of vice to those younger than themselves. Young children, if left to themselves, learn the bad more readily than the good. Bad habits agree best with the natural heart, and the things which they see and hear in infancy and childhood are deeply imprinted upon their minds. The bad seed sown in their young hearts will take root and will become sharp thorns to wound the hearts of the parents.
So there have been in the past movements where people start their children later at a greater age. And so I don't see and hear that as much in today's world as I have in the past anyway. Children frequently are put to school as a matter of convenience for the parents' work schedule and so forth, and so it plays out.
We face a different element today. Too many preschool children today are being raised by the TV and the computer screen and their electronic toys.
Yep.
And there's problems there that
Big
may
time.
surmount what the problems were of early age in her time.
Right, very, very true. Kelly, I'll go from there.
During the first 6 or 7 years of a child's life, special attention should be given to its physical training rather than the intellect. After this period, if the physical constitution is good, the education of both should receive attention. Infancy extends to the age of 6 or 7 years. Up to this period, children should be left like little lambs to roam around the house and in the yards in the buoyancy of their spirits, skipping and jumping free from care and trouble.
And not sitting in front of the TV or the screen of the computer or whatever, which is what happens in today's world. Okay.
Parents, especially mothers, should be the only teachers of such infant minds. They should not educate from books. The children generally will be inquisitive to learn the things of nature. They will ask questions in regard to the things they see and hear, and parents should improve the opportunity to instruct and patiently answer these little inquiries. They can, in this manner, get the advantage of the enemy and fortify the minds of their children by sowing good seed in their hearts, leaving no room for the bad to take root. The mother's loving instruction at a tender age is what is needed by children in the formation of character. The first important lesson for children to learn is the proper denial of appetite. It is the duty of mothers to attend to the wants of their children by soothing and diverting their minds instead of giving them food, and thus teaching them that eating is the remedy for life's ills.
That's probably a good place to stop because it now changes from the child to being the father. So we'll stop there. But that's interesting. It's good to observe what takes place here in our kindergarten, K4 and K5 room with Miss Burkett. She is all the time having them outside doing things and moving from building to building. They'll come over to the gym and play in there for a while. I mean, she's not pushing the reading, the intellect, and so forth. She has them busy doing stuff all the time, which is really, really interesting. And then as they move up to Miss Derby's room, they're also not pushed so much to read, but they're read too. I mean, she's all the time sharing stories with them. Yes, they are beginning to understand and be able to read, but they're not pushed that hard to have to focus in it so much, which to me was following a lot of what she's saying. You know, allow their minds to catch up with their bodies, and then they'll be naturally inclined to want to know, and that learning then takes place a lot easier. Yes, Roseanne?
I was just going to say that sometimes when children are started too young, they burn out early.
Yes, right. Yeah, right. Yeah.
And if you start a little later, they catch up really quick.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's true. Yep, very true. All righty. I'll move my marker here so I can catch where we're at. All righty. Time for our prayer time. Anything you want to make mention of for a request or recognition or praise? Yes?
I just want to thank God again for His mercy. We live so close to that river, and when I see the devastation upstream,
Yes.
and usually the further downstream you go,
Gets
the
worse.
worse it gets. And we are just so blessed and protected. And I think of that verse, when you pass through the waters, I will be with you. And that it just, as you guys know, life can be disrupted, but it also helps us to evaluate what is importance in life. And stuff is convenient, but it's not the gist of life.
Right. Very true.
Pastor,
Yes.
my son brought a team of young people over from Southern Adventist University to help with some of the cleanup in North Carolina. And I just want to remember them, that they will address the needs of the community, and
Sure.
that they will be inspired to do more good things for
Right.
people.
Right. Very true. I know there's a lot happening at our academies. The kids have been sent home, but they've been places people can come together that are doing that work. And so there's a lot of things are strengthening hopefully that do for others concept.
That's an important part of their education.
Yes, right. Very true. Right. Yes.
We are
go ahead.
very thankful we got to, because He protected us, and we saw many things around us, but we were in good shape, in spite of everything. And also the community, really, we came to be very close to help each other, and that was a good experience too. I mean, we really had good times, even in the situation that was not very nice.
We had a Friday night vespers around a campfire, invited the community. Sabbath, we had the service at Patty and Joe's house.
Okay.
We had our cabin set up for anybody that needed a shower. We had a generator hooked to it, so it was, people could cook. We have some non-Adventists on the property. They were there too. We did have probably, 15, 17 trees down. So we were trapped for a little bit, but we broke out eventually. And not one tree fell on any of the houses on our property. That was something we were praying for. So we've got a lot to be thankful for. Still continuing to clean, but we're getting there.
All right. Very good. Okay.
I need to share a praise also, because I woke up early Friday morning and saw those trees swirling.
Oh, they were doing that.
They weren't just going in one direction or another, they were swirling.
Yep.
And after all that rain, I knew there were going to be some coming down. I said, Lord, please send your angels to place them carefully so they don't hit any property,
Right. Yep.
And He did.
Yep.
There's 7 trees down, but they didn't hit anything, not even a shed. And I can live with it that way. My neighbor came over and pushed the one off the driveway so I could get out. Kelly came over and gave me some water and said, I know where we can find the generator. So we kind of camped out at Sonia's house this week. That was a real blessing, because I didn't know it was going to take until Monday night to get my power back.
Right.
And God's been good to me. I really appreciate it.
Yep. Amen. Very good. Roger.
This last 2 weeks gives a new definition to what Ellen White was telling about. At the end of time, to get out of the cities. When Asheville received its destruction, it also experienced looting and stealing and thievery. And in the country, it's, are you okay? Can I help you? There is a different mentality.
Right.
You reach out and you give. In the cities, you take.
Right. Yep. Very true. Yeah, we were blessed too. Where my house is, on the property I own, there's not a tree. Okay, but it's on 3 sides. And so I woke up and saw that there was one falling on the side where we park, and I have 2 workshops over there, and I thought, well, one of them, it looks like it could have got the corner of it, but it didn't. But while I was sitting there through the trees doing this, all of a sudden you'd hear it go, and we lost 2 trees behind us, but they fell up the hill, and we lost 3 or 4 over on the other side of our drive, and they fell parallel to the property line as well. So in reality, there's only one that even fell into my property, but all the rest of them are on the outside. So we were blessed too. Anyway, God is good. Kelly.
Just so many blessings. You know, as frustrating as it was at times, just so many blessings. And I've noticed being back at work, even people in the elevator, they're just a little more, how you doing? You know, that just, usually you walk in the elevator and everybody's phone comes out of their pocket and, you know, for the 2 minutes they have to themselves. But it's just been nice to see people that you don't normally talk to. You doing okay? Is your, you know, it's just, it's nice. And I do enjoy being online quite a bit.
So you're one of those 2 minutes on the elevator looking at your phone?
Not usually that, but now that we don't have internet at the house, it's been kind of nice to kind
change of face, right?
dry out a little bit. And
Right.
then I went to my brother's. I did need to pay my bills, and it's all online, so I went to my brother's house, and I went on Facebook for a little bit, and it was just like so heavy.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like, man, maybe I need to stay off of this a little bit more. I mean, and it's good to keep up with people, but there's a lot of negative things. And
That's right.
it's
Very
like,
true.
Anyway, so many blessings.
Mm-hmm.
And would you pray, my Uncle Carl, he's ready to rest, and I hope that he will pass peacefully soon.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bob Dindy is struggling with electricity. They came and repaired a pole in his yard that had fell over and hooked everything back up. And he had gone to his son, and he came home the next day and started turning lights on, and they started popping and fusing and burning and smoking. And he's concerned that when they wired it, that it got crossed somehow coming into his house. And so he's called the power company, and they say, according to our records, you have been connected, and now it's a service issue, and that's like 300 people ahead of you, but we'll get to it. And he was concerned and looking for an electrician to see if they could come tell him what's wrong. He says, because we can't turn anything on because it shorts out and creates problems. And so anyway, so he's still, even though they came and rewired things, it's not correct on the inside. It's not working right. So just to remember him as he struggles with trying to figure out what's wrong. All right. Any other thoughts? Yes, Douglas.
Well, it's actually been a blessing. You know, every morning watch the local news and world news at night. And the TV hadn't been on for 8 days. I feel like I'm blessed more than others. And another thing, you know, it says God is in control. He lets Satan go so far, and he says no more.
Yeah.
But what if the Lord said, okay, you want some more? What if it lasted for 2 more weeks or 3?
Yeah.
What if there's no food or water?
Right.
And the Lord's still in control.
Mm-hmm.
But it feels good to me to go to bed at night. Nobody's going to try to break in.
Right.
I have peace with God and praise His holy name.
Yep. That's true. Very, very true.
Just a quick experience. We came so close to the house catching on fire this week. We had our electric back, so Carol starts doing washing now and putting stuff in the dryer. Well, we'd run a couple loads in the dryer and didn't notice it, but for some reason or other, she touched the dryer. Wow, why is it so hot? And so we shut it off. And I went outside. There's an under vent goes outside. And when she turned it on, I said, turn it off. There was no air flowing. Our crawl space had gotten flooded, and that vent had gotten filled with water, and so the hot air from the dryer couldn't go anywhere.
That's right.
Was backing up into the machine. When I tipped the machine forward, that back was brown, scorched, just about ready to catch on fire. So we cut loose the vent so the hot air can blow down in the crawl space and dry it out. And now the dryer works great. Okay.
Good. All righty. All righty. Well, let's have our guest, Jeff.
I'd like to remember the people in Florida as this next
It's coming again.
coming in right
Right.
now. So we have family in that area.
Mm-hmm.
So Orlando and Avon Park and Sarasota.
Yeah, we have some good friends living down there too, and they're saying, we're not going anywhere, we're going to go through it. But anyway, it's apt to be pretty bad. Yeah, right. All righty. All right. I haven't seen anything since 2 days ago, so I don't know for sure.
Is it coming tonight?
I think overnight and in the morning. Yeah, I think so. But I haven't seen, so I don't know that for sure. All righty. I invite you to kneel together then as we pray. Those of you on Zoom can sort of undo your mics and talk to each other and have prayer time.